Why are U.S. auto factories so unproductive, and why is the EV transition so difficult for them? Well, we all have a few theories, but some theories carry more weight than others, and they are all in a little bit of trouble, and we'll find out why. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So I've got Randy joining me because he's worked in business. He's worked as a consultant. He's worked as a CEO. He has worked as a as the guy who had to sweep the floor at one point because he didn't have the right number of staff, and the floor just needed to be swept. Good morning, Randy.
Well, how are you doing today? I have swept floors. I have dusted shelves. You know, sometimes, when you're first starting out, you are all of the above.
You know, the biggest lesson in business was about sexual harassment. And that was when I was my own boss. So I had to learn the hard way to keep the handsiness in check.
All right. That's the peak of this particular episode.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. So why are U.S. auto factories so unproductive? Before we get into it, why don't you give me a guess or two?
A guess or two. Well, I can tell you that one of the reasons that they're unproductive is because they have a huge amount of union employees with massive amounts of pension obligations going forward. Even if they were to close up business tomorrow, they are working on systems that are 30 or 40 years old in terms of the methodologies, productivity methodologies. They haven't come into the 21st century. They're using equipment at this point that in many times is not exactly up to speed. So those would be a beginning, a few.
That's a great start. There was the equipment one. Well, we already have this equipment. You know how cheap it is to keep using it? Yes, but it's going to add $50, $100, $300 per car over not just replacing it. And we see that with Tesla themselves. They've got a bunch of legacy equipment used to make the S and X, which makes it less competitive than it should be. It's hard to make a decision like that. It's expensive and difficult. The pension thing, a lot of companies have moved all companies I'm aware of have moved away from a defined benefit pension, which says when you retire, you get this, to a defined contribution package. But you still have a lot of those defined benefit ones on the books. So first, new car demand simply hasn't snapped back to pre-pandemic levels. And that's especially true in England. They had Brexit to contend with, but their auto market has just never recovered. High prices are keeping customers away or sending them to used markets. The cost pressure isn't necessarily going away fully. And we are seeing that with used market. In 2007, 8, you could get a 5, 6, 7-year-old car for a tenth of what it costs new because the used market was just that soft. And now a 5, 6, 7-year-old car is half what it was. We're not seeing the kind of rampant depreciation that we saw.
Well, you've got you also have another thing going on with the used cars and with productivity, and with numbers rather. The total unit volume is that cars last a lot longer. When I was a wee child, or when I was in my teens and 20s, you bought a car. You considered a car completely exhausted and wasted at about 95,000. If you had a car that somehow you could squeeze out 120, you consider that to be some kind of miracle, and you were probably spending more money per month on repairs than you would be on a payment. But now, if you don't get 150,000 out of a car, you think what a horrible thing, and commonplace to get 180, 200,000 miles. So if the cars last longer, obviously you don't have to replace them. Add to that, you got the teenagers aren't buying them. So the teenager's like, I'm not going to drive. What are you talking about? It costs way too much money, and I can just get an Uber or a Lyft or go with a friend. Besides, I live in my mom's basement. She'll take me.
It sounds like a cynical response, Randy, but it is true. I know because I have such children, and they don't. We all yearned for the freedom of an automobile because we needed it. Otherwise, we were stuck at home watching 3 channels. There's nothing to do here. But now there's the internet. I mean, we can be connected with our friends all over the world instantly for free in any capacity we want. I still don't call them. Automakers EV cowardice is hurting you and our world. This is another headwind. This year has become a trend for major automakers to announce a retreat from ambitious plans while publicly stating the decisions due to limited consumer demand. Randy, so we've got this new GM EV, and you know what? People just don't want it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Elon has famously said, if you don't make a compelling product at a compelling price, you shouldn't be in business. My favorite quote from Elon Musk.
GM is following them. They are following that plan. Don't make a compelling vehicle. Got it. No. I said if you don't make a compelling vehicle. Done. And it has to be at a price people will pay. Okay. Right. If the Hummer was 65,000, it would sell.
Yeah.
But it's 130,000, 100 at least. Ain't nobody buying that. In July, Tesla sold more Cybertrucks than GM has sold Hummers, and August was bigger. And
Yes.
September's bigger still. This year's become a trend for automakers to announce a retreat from ambitious plans. Internal combustion, burn fossil fuel. What happens when the U.S. relies too much on non-renewable fossil fuels? The results include emissions, pollution, climate change, depletion in carbon sinks, mismanagement of waste, loss of biodiversity. I mean, we know the reasons. Renewables, on the other hand, do better. So here's the debate. Should we be burning 370 million gallons a day? Hard to argue that that's a good thing. I've seen people complain that, well, if we just drill, baby drill, we would have enough energy. And I don't know if you know, but the U.S. became the world's largest oil producer in, I think, 2012. And it has not lost that crown. We have been the largest oil producing country for over a decade, and prices are still high because the price is whatever people will pay for it. A lesson learned from 9/11 is people will still buy gas. If it goes from $1.10 to $3.50, they don't seem to mind. They still have to get around.
True.
Yeah. So Automakers Slash More Than 4 million EVs from the 2030 sales targets as adoption slows. And then for some reason, they decided to include, plus Toyota's distancing itself from LGBTQ plus initiatives that says that were put on by staff. What? Okay. Yeah, you got, let's blame them for that too. Oh man. Well, Randy, we were going to have 30 new models, all electric by 2030, but the gays. What? I don't understand. Make it make sense. Now they're aiming to sell 23 million by 2030. That would still represent over a quarter of new car sales.
Wow.
But there's no reason for it to be slow rolled like this.
And I projected that we would be at 100% BEVs by the end of 2027, going into 2028. I do believe that my goal is not going to be achieved at this point.
Yeah, but have you seen your projections?
I'm not 100% sure that it will be pushed back as far as some think. And that's because there's going to become a point. There's going to become a day. There's going to become that tipping point. There's a famous book called The Tipping Point. If you love business,
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell. And if you love business and you love, or if you love the stock market, you should read The Tipping Point to understand what happens. And it's just that there's a day when you wake up in the morning and you go, oh no, I'm never buying another ICE car. Are you kidding me? And then your neighbor wakes up and calls you and says, I was thinking I'm never going to buy another. It just happens. And all of a sudden you've got a massive switch in consumer priorities. Look at Nike as a great example, how just in a year, they've gone from being number one forever to being almost a distant memory on their tennis shoes.
The Ford F-150 has been the best-selling truck for 47 years. It's been the best-selling model in the U.S. overall for 42 years. And it looks like this year that reign will end, and that it may end the year not at number 2, but at number 3, behind the RAV4 and the Tesla Model Y. If you don't see that seismic shift and recognize it. My friend, you are 14 automakers who have made EV goals for 2030 will now produce a combined 23.7, down from 27 million they would have sold if they stuck to their targets. While each automaker sets targets individually, they can collectively transform the market. This is GM backtracked on plans, VW backtracked, Toyota okay, gotta blame them for something, right? Third gear, Stellantis to cut inventory by 100,000 cars by 2025. Well,
they are cutting. There's a rumor out that they're cutting their U.S. Labor force by 50%. They've announced that they believe they will be bleeding 5 to 10 billion euros this year in terms of free cash flow.
You and I discussed this when the strike was happening, when the big three auto strike happened. I said they're not going to get everything they want. They can't. If they do, it will mean the end of production in the US. And in the comments, we had many union bros screaming, "How dare you try to tell us what we know better than you? You don't know the market better than me and Randy." That's the thing. You may be very good at building a car, but they got everything they wanted. And now the factories are closing. I tried to warn you. I tried. I really did. You got too much. You are killing the golden goose. And of course the factories are closing. They couldn't make money before that. So, well, yes, but Mary Barra was getting 50 million. Great. Divvy that 50 million up among every employee of GM, and you'll find that it's $50 a year, or $100 a year. That's not the money. That's not where the money went. And that was all stock. Do you guys want stock? Because your union rep didn't fight for it. Very dumb. So yeah, this keeps getting worse for the folks, for the legacy guys. Toyota output falls for 7th month in a row. Now I've got a little friend who is in a position of some authority at a little company called Toyota. Mm-hmm. And he's been predicting this for a year and a half. He's been saying, we are having problems. And the higher ups definitely don't get it. And unlike at Tesla, not only do they not listen to us, they don't want to hear from us. Mm-hmm. You don't know anything. We are in the other tier. We are in we're the officers. You're just the privates.
We're the 7th floor.
Yeah. And if there's one thing you know about a demure nation, it's that they don't want to look at privates. So we've got this here. We're looking at Volkswagen cuts forecasts again. Demand wanes, Randy.
I know. Okay. So what is it about all these companies? How much of a death wish do you have to not pick up the phone at this point and call Tesla? I mean,
call them and say what?
Call them and say, okay, we get it. We need your iOS system. Okay, we get it. We're going to need your FSD. Okay, we get it. We need that amazing Octavalve arrangement that you've got. Help us put this together. I mean, they've been trading with each other. All these different legacy companies have been trading with each other since the beginning of time, but they're somehow afraid of, are too proud or something with regard to Tesla. I don't get it.
I will say that integrating someone else's iOS software FSD has a lot of complications.
Of course.
But it doesn't have the kind of complications that hiring 10,000 engineers to fire them does. And we knew when Herbert Diess, the former CEO, was replaced by Oliver Bloom, we knew that there was a shift coming. And I don't know if you heard the reason that Herbert Diess was let go. The big rumor, the accepted rumor, is that the Porsche family, who controls a lot of the Volkswagen group, said, we don't want him in. We don't want electrification. We want vroomies. And that's one theory. But what I heard is that he went into a meeting and said, Herbert Diess nuts, and they had to let him go. I don't know if that's true, but I think it's true enough for me. So with that said, Volkswagen, their $5 billion Rivian tie-up prompts dismay at software division. Now, this is a little bit older story here, but it fits with the theme of this tale. The $5 billion tie-up with Rivian has sparked dismay. among the Cariad division. Guys, you're a bunch of dead weight. I get it. I would be dismayed too if my terrible division was clearly in danger. You are killing the company. So I guess.
Well, and now the new president's out, right? Our CEO, the new CEO, he's out, right?
Of Volkswagen?
Who wasn't it? Was it Volkswagen? I thought it was Volkswagen last week. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a different one of the legacies. But
Stellantis' CEO's contract is not being renewed.
oh, he's the one. Okay,
Effective 2026.
Okay. It was Stellantis. Okay.
So he's got a little bit of runway to really drive this company in a direction. I think the ground is the direction.
Yes.
You guys in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it. Everybody else, like, subscribe, do the usual, and head on over to the Randy Kirk channel, see what he's up to. There's a fascinating video that came out probably yesterday, maybe, or today, with me and Bradford Ferguson and Brian Wang. It's going to be so amazing. You'll see. And everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots in these dark and trying times.